Good afternoon, all my Connor kiddos. Today I'm going to read you a story, a special story, because this story was written by Tommy DePaola. Tommy DePaola passed away last night. He was one of my favorite authors and illustrators because of something special. I got to meet him one day because I wrote this book when I was a little girl in 2nd grade. Look at those awesome pictures. The baby bird. Well, apparently it was good enough that it won an award. I won the Young Writers of Mini-Cassia Award. That's in Rupert, Idaho, at Memorial Elementary School. My teacher was Mrs. Beebe, and she was an amazing teacher. Loved Mrs. Beebe. So because I got to meet him, he was there when we won this contest, he signed this book for me, and sadly it got wet. Got ruined, and so the cover where he signed it, I took the cover off and I've saved it. So I wanted to read this book today in honor of him, and I hope you will love it as much as I do. It's called Now One Foot, Now the Other by Tommy DePaola. And you might hear Kate in the background. She's having a sad day too. Can you hear her? Say hi. She's having a hard day. I don't know what's wrong. So you might hear her in the background making a lot of sounds. Okay, here we go. Bobby was named after his best friend, his grandfather Bob. When Bobby was just a baby, his grandfather told everyone, "Bobby will be 3 years old before he can say Grandpa, so I'm just going to have him call me Bob." And Bob was the first word that Bobby said. Come here, Kate. Come here. Bob was the one who helped Bobby learn to walk. "Hold on to my hands, Bobby," his grandfather would say. "Now one foot, now the other." And one of the best things Bob and Bobby did was to play with the old wooden blocks that were kept on a shelf in the small sewing room under the front stairs. The blocks had 2 letters on 2 sides, numbers on 2 sides, and pictures of animals on the last 2 sides. Bob and Bobby would slowly, very slowly, put the blocks one on top of the other, building a tall tower. There were 30 blocks. Sometimes the tower would fall down when only half the blocks were piled up. Sometimes the tower would be almost finished. "Just one more block," Bob would say. "And that's the elephant block," Bobby would say. And they would carefully put the elephant block on the very top, but Bob would sneeze and the tower would fall down. Bobby would laugh and laugh. "Oh, elephants always make you sneeze, Bob," Bobby would say. "We'll just have to try the next time," his grandfather would say. Then Bob would sit Bobby on his knee and he would tell him stories. "Bob, tell the story about how you taught me how to walk," Bobby asked. And his grandfather would tell Bobby how he held Bobby's hands and would say, "Now one foot, now the other," and before you knew it, on Bobby's 5th birthday, Bob and he had a special day. They went to the amusement park, they rode a roller coaster, ate hot dogs and ice cream. They had their pictures taken in a machine, and they sang a song and made a phonograph record. And when it got dark, they watched the fireworks. On the way home, Bob told Bobby stories. "Now tell the story about how you taught me to walk," Bobby said. So Bob did. Not long after Bobby's birthday, his grandfather got very sick. Bobby came home and his grandfather wasn't there. "Bobby's in the hospital," Dad told Bobby. "He's had what is called a stroke." "I want to go see him," Bobby said. "Oh, you can't, honey," Mom told him. "Right now, Bob's too sick to see anyone. He can't move his arms or his legs, and he can't talk. The doctor's not sure if he knows who anyone is. We'll just have to wait and hope that Bob gets better." Bobby didn't know what to do. He didn't want to eat. He had a hard time going to sleep at night. Bob just had to get better. Months and months and months went by. Bob was still in the hospital. Bobby missed his grandfather. One day when Bobby came home from school, his father told him Bob was coming home. "Now, Bobby," Dad said, "Bob is still very sick. He can't move or talk. And when he sees your mother and me, he still doesn't know who we are. And the doctors think that he will get better. So don't be scared if he doesn't remember who you are." But Bobby was scared. His grandfather didn't remember him. He just laid in bed. And when Dad carried him, Bob sat in a chair, but he didn't talk or even move. One day, Bob tried to say something to Bobby, but the sound came out and it was awful. Bob ran out of the room. "Bob sounded like a monster," Bobby cried. "Oh, he can't help it, Bobby," Mom would say. So Bobby went back in the room where Bob was sitting. It looked like a tear was coming down Bob's face. "I didn't mean to run away, Bob. I was scared. I'm sorry," Bobby said. "Do you know who I am?" Bobby thought he saw Bob blink his eyes. Mom, Bobby called. "Bob knows who I am." "Oh, Bobby," Mom said, "you're just going to upset yourself. Your grandfather doesn't recognize any of us." But Bobby knew better. He ran to the small sewing room under the front stairs, and he took out the blocks off the shelf and ran back to where Bob was sitting. Bob's mouth made a small smile, and Bobby began to build the tower. "Halfway up, almost to the top, only one block left." "Okay, Bob," said Bobby, "now the elephant block." And Bob made a strange sound that sounded like a sneeze. The blocks all fell down, and Bob smiled and moved his fingers up and down. Bobby laughed and laughed. Now he knew that Bob would get better. And Bob did. Slowly he began to talk a little. It sounded strange, but he could say Bobby just as clear as day. Bob began to move his fingers, then his hands, and Bobby still helped to feed his grandfather. But one day, Bob could almost hold a spoon by himself, but he still couldn't walk. When the weather got nice and warm, Dad carried Bob out onto a chair set up on the lawn. Bobby sat with him. "Bobby," Bob said, "story." So Bobby told Bob some stories. Then Bob stood up very slowly. "You, me, walk," said Bob. Bobby knew exactly what Bob wanted to do. So Bobby stood in front of Bob and let Bob lean on his shoulders. "Okay, Bob, now one foot." Bob moved one foot. "Now the other foot." Bob moved the other. By the end of the summer, Bob and Bobby could walk to the end of the lawn, and Bob could talk better and better each day. On Bobby's 6th birthday, Bobby got the blocks out, and slowly he built up the tower. "Only one block to go." "Here, elephant block," Bob said. Bobby put it on top. Bob sneezed. "Elephants always make you sneeze, Bob," Bobby said. "We'll just have to do it the next time. Now tell me the story." And Bob did. Then Bob said, "Bobby, tell story how you teach Bob to walk." "Well, Bob, you leaned on my shoulders, and then I said, 'Now one foot, now the other.' And before you knew it, there's the elephant walk." So such a sweet story. Tomie dePaola is an amazing author. If you get a chance today, look up Strega Nona. That's probably another one of my favorites. Or Nana Upstairs, Nana Downstairs. Any books of his are amazing. And the way he's spelled is Tomie, and he always put a heart in his signature, and somewhere in his books he usually has a bird, like a dove up for peace, or a heart. He hides them in all of his stories. So because he really wanted people to love each other and be kind to one another. So that was for you today, Tommy. Thank you. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.